All right, we're going to get started here in a minute. Let's get everybody resettled in. Chantel, are they starting it again or did they just pause it? Okay, good. I think we're ready. All right, we're back. Yay! All right, so a couple of things before I get to the questions, all right? So, number one, okay, all of these things that we're talking about in all of the areas, and then I just want to remind us, the person that you are is why you where you are, is why you are where you are. If you want to fix your finances, you have to become a person, a different aspect of you that's that person that's got that fixed, okay? Again, this is always personal development part of it. You are where you are because it's where you are. You have to move. You have to become the person that's more aware, motivated, driven, whatever it is in that particular area. Could have been your health, could have been your relationship, could have been any of those things. It all requires the same thing. You becoming the person that makes more money in this case, right? That has these things lined up. Okay, now, when you're doing your target setting, your goal setting, okay, you're always going to be doing the same kind of thing we did with all of them. I got one of those sheets somewhere here. Okay, here we go. All right, so every one of them is going to have the same sort of process. The first thing is you're going to say, I'm going to have, let's say it's the emergency fund. Level 1 emergency fund, which is a $1,000 emergency fund by a certain date. Then you want to write down the benefit to me and others for having a $1,000 emergency fund. There's a benefit if you have these things, right? The cost to me and others are for not having it. The same thing with your income levels, your giving levels, your investment level, whatever. What is the benefit to you and others? What is the cost to you and others if you don't do it? Could be the same thing in any of the areas of life, right? What's the price you're willing to pay to make sure you have this thing fixed? Again, put that $1,000 aside. Well, I'm willing to stop having Starbucks every day, and I think I can save $1,000 in a month. No, okay. All right? That's almost accurate, actually. All right, to have a $1,000 emergency fund, I'm willing to change, give up, or add something to your life. What are you willing to do, right? So those are the kinds of things. These will be on the sheets that you'll be able to download and print and whatever. So on my little overview sheet, I have things like, okay, emergency fund of $1,000 by, debt-free except for the mortgage by a certain date, the 3 months expenses by a certain date, 6 months expenses by a certain date, pay off the house early. Okay, let me just say something really important. All right. Okay. This is a goal, all right? This is your goal. Well, I've been saying target, all right? This is your target, all right? No housing or we'll call it or car debt, okay? By, we'll call it 65 or retirement, all right? So what am I talking about? Even if you're going to live on Social Security, not going to be that tough if you don't have a housing expense because you have a house that's paid for and you have a car that's paid for, okay? I'm just thinking about, Dave Ramsey talks often about, paying everything but the house or whatever. I don't know if he emphasizes enough that the house should be paid so that that's no longer an issue, okay? I'm working on paying my house off right now, And I'm thinking, wow, all that money I spend every month on the house, what am I going to do with that money when I don't have to put it on the house? I'll have all that extra funds, right? Okay? So that's really important, number one. Number two, and this one I don't need to write down, but I think that you can certainly understand this, because the next part of the goals is consistently just doing all three tithes and offerings and having all assets sufficiently protected. We didn't talk about that much, but you need to have asset protection. What does that mean? Insurance. Okay? You own a house, the house should be insured. You own a car, the car's insured. How about your life? You have to have something to protect assets. Okay? Make sure that you have all of your assets protected. All right, now, so this higher level where you're starting to invest or pay off, even the paying off debt and stuff. Okay, actually, I think it'll help if I draw it out. Okay, so we have a thing called third tithe, right? Okay, third tithe. So how does third tithe work? Okay, so third tithe works like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, make it smaller. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7-year cycle, right? All right. Year 1, okay, you have 2 tithes. Year 2, you have 2 tithes, right? First and second. Year 3, you've got 3. 2, 2, 3, right? Okay. So for a budget, that kind of gives you a little roller coaster thing going on here, because there's more money needed in your budget for these 2 years, the year 3 and year 6, than there is in the other ones, right? So here's what this is me. This is not scripture. This is me. Okay? In year 2, okay, let's do that third tithe, but use that for you, for paying off debt or investing or something that makes sense in your budget. Same thing here, okay? Same thing here, same thing here, same thing here. So in other words, put aside 3 tithes every year. You're only sending it in year 3 and year 6. So let's use some actual numbers, okay? So let's say that you had, just make it real simple. Let's say you had $1,000 income, all right? So out of $1,000, your first tithe is how much? $100. Your second tithe is how much? $100. Your third tithe is how much? $100. Now, what if you took that third $100 in year 1 and used that to pay off some of your consumer debt? Okay? Or let's say your consumer debt's handled and you're putting it towards your 3 to 6 months expenses or your emergency fund or whatever you're putting it towards, okay? Year 2, same thing. You've got that $100. It's already blocked out. It's in your budget, okay? Use it. Don't spend it. Pay off debt. Use it functionally. Don't say, oh, I can consume this. Don't consume it. Year 3, you're going to give it in, okay? Year 4, again, use it for you. Use it effectively. This way your budget stays the same every year. It doesn't go through this third year and sixth year sort of like, uh-oh, it's third year. If you do this every year, there's no uh-oh, it's third year, right? Because you're just going to apply it differently, but you're still budgeting for it. Does that make sense? I think it's a powerful tool that can really be used, to help you with what you're doing, okay? Okay, it's very important. All right, now, some people ask about, what order to do things in, okay? I think the first and foremost thing you need to do is get that emergency fund. And why? Well, because if you're putting all your money into the debt and then you have an emergency, then you're just going to borrow it back. Let's get that $1,000 emergency fund built quickly, okay? That way you can just go, take a deep breath and go, okay, that's not anything to worry about anymore. Now I can focus on getting everything else done. All right. Okay. So that was all I wanted to cover for that, and we're going to start taking some questions. Rachel, do you want to go first?
So is it okay if I give a couple comments too?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay.
We got an hour and a half.
All right. So one thing I noticed, because I've spent a good portion of my career living on my own in a new city, it makes a difference financially if you're in a community versus you have to pay for everything. For example, I have something done to my house. I can't stay there the night. It's like if I can't crash at a friend's house, I'm spending $100 on a hotel. So or moving, I'm hiring movers instead of asking friends. So that's something I wasn't necessarily prepared for. And I thought maybe that'd be interesting information for some of the younger people as they're figuring out where they're going to live, what they're going to do, what they're going to pursue. So I don't know if you've noticed that talking to people or not. Basically, the not having community cost portion of the finances. And then I was also going to ask, would you consider putting money in an IRA or a investment account? Is that an additional income stream because it's going to come into effect later, or do we only count stuff that's actively dumping in the budget now?
Yes. Okay. So investment, okay, is investment. Income streams are sometimes investments if they are literally, like you said, streaming income to me on a regular basis. All right. So if you have, my grandfather, was a big fan of, he owned a lot of bonds and he owned a lot of dividend-bearing stocks. And so those stocks paid him quarterly a dividend. So it was an income stream. And when he retired, that was one of his income streams, is that these things sent him payments on a regular basis. Okay? If you look at the way Kiyosaki looks at things, all right, assets bring money to you. So your house is a liability, not an asset. Your house that you live in doesn't bring any money to you. Could it be something you can get a chunk of money in if you sell it? Sure, but then you got to buy another one or do something else housing-wise anyway. So an IRA is an investment for your future. It's not an income stream, okay? Only things that are actually streaming you income.
And I was also wondering if you would go over something that I found helpful second time you did Level Up. Your destination, circle, starting point, destination, and the circle in the middle, with not just putting stuff into the circle that's good, but not putting stuff in the circle that isn't good, isn't helpful.
All right. Now I got to remember what I did. All right, so I think the point is this, okay? So we start off here, and we're wanting to get here, okay? And so this whole area in the middle is things you could be doing that you're hoping will get you to here. But some of the things you do may take you backwards, may take you this way or this way. They don't necessarily just bring you here, okay? And that's something you got to be really aware of. Everything you're doing is going to be affecting the journey, all right? It could be something that's kind of anchoring you in a spot and is preventing you from moving forward. That's not helpful. It could be something that actually you made a foolish decision that made you go backwards. Okay, you took a few steps back. And that happens sometimes. A couple of steps forward, a step back, another step. Okay, as long as you're taking more steps forward than back, right? So you're at least getting some forward movement. Other things are very productively taking you where you want to go. Some things are sort of going sideways, which again kind of anchor you in the spot. So they look like they're actually doing something, but they're not. Because you're doing, but is what you're doing moving you in that direction? Is that kind of what you're talking about? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then last comment, I really appreciate your advice to do something with that third tithe money on the off years. It's like it really makes a difference. And can I up my investing? Can I put something into personal development? Can I pay off? It's like maybe this next year I'll put some extra money toward my mortgage. But it makes a difference. So thank you.
You're very welcome. And look, and you're welcome and free to do whatever you want with that third 10% that you're not giving in year 1 and 2 and year 4 and 5 and that kind of thing. But make it as useful as possible. So maybe take that course you wanted to take. Maybe, that may be the way to afford to get some training or retooling in something. Use it for something functional. Don't just consume it. That's the main thing. Don't just consume it. All right? And so I'm glad that people are making use of that. Look, I remember when I first started understanding 3 tithes. I remember that it was something that you were very aware of. All of a sudden, when it became year 3 or 6, it was like, uh-oh, because now you got to really think about an additional thing out of your budget. I found it to be much easier just to do it all the time, just redirect it either to my own use or giving it in like for the benevolence use, on that annual basis. All right, Janet.
Thank you, Rabbi. I appreciate it. Okay, so
I love that I have people coming up that have taken the class.
taken it twice, 3
Yep.
times, but
And Rachel, too.
yeah. Okay, you're talking about Dave Ramsey, and we did with Dave Ramsey, I don't know, what, 15 years ago. But for him, like he goes, okay, so he goes all the way to 3 to 6 months expenses, and then after step 4, he says invest 15% of your household income in retirement. Step 5, save for your children's college fund. Step 6, pay off your house. And then is the final step 7, build wealth and give. So
Right, that's what he calls his baby steps.
exactly.
Right.
So
Wait, you start it. Do you have them listed from one?
Yeah, I do.
Tell
can
everybody
go.
what they are. By the way, I like Dave Ramsey's program. I disagree on some details, but
Sure, I'll read it, Rabbi. Step 1, save $1,000 for your starter emergency fund.
First thing, get that emergency fund.
Step 2, pay off all debt except
Consumer
your
debt,
house.
except your house.
With the debt snowball.
Right.
Step 3, save 3 to 6 months of expenses in a fully funded emergency fund. Step 4, invest 15% of your household income in retirement. And then
All right. That was all I needed. You already said those
Yes,
before.
yes.
Okay, so on the target setting sheet, okay, you don't have to zoom in on this. I have one. You'll have that on the form. So on the financial target setting. So the thing that starts off is you have to have a fully functional and active budget. It's not on his list, but you need a budget, okay? It's got to start with a budget or you don't know where any of your money is. Then I go through the same baby steps he did. Emergency fund, okay? Okay, paying off your debt, 3 to 6 months expenses. We call that a fully funded emergency fund, okay? Because an emergency fund is like something breaks. But what about if you lose your job? That's a bigger type of emergency. So I would call it a 3 to 6 months of expenses. And then, of course, at some point, you'll be also focusing on paying off your house. With us, we also think about making sure that you're able to afford to tithe properly. And I'm okay with you delaying the tithing while fixing some of these things, but you should be giving something to demonstrate to him that I'm planning to and trying and giving at least my widow's mite. I'm doing something. Okay, because I don't want to hear anybody tell me they can't afford to put something in the box. I got people that write me a check for $1 and I put it in the box. Okay? You can do that. It's important that you do that for you, not for me. I mean, what's $1 going to make a difference? But it makes a difference to you and to him, and it's a mindset and it's a heart, and you need to do something. Okay? I'm not going to kill you for the fact that you did not get your finances right to tithe properly. But if you're striving towards it, that's what he's watching, right? Okay? But then we're going to get to the things you were talking about, all right? So on my sheet, I have this investing or putting to work 10% of your income monthly as step 1, then 20%, then 30%. He talked about 15%, okay? I like 10 because we're used to the idea of tithing, all right? If you look at a lot of these books that are out there that teach wealth development, they'll say that you should be giving 10%. They don't call it tithing, but just the idea of doing something benevolently with 10%. So it also talks about investing in yourself. So I would say, yeah, 10% with the goal of then moving up to the next level of 20 and then 30. Then you may want to do some, it's up to you, philanthropic giving. But you're already giving to the ministry. That is sort of part of that, right? When you give to us, we are doing things that will basically help in a philanthropic way. And then, of course, there's legacy. Okay, the stuff that you do that kind of builds some sort of legacy for you. Maybe you end up creating a scholarship somewhere that's in your name that people can have. Maybe you do something else that's legacy, okay? Providing something that's going to be ongoing after you are no longer here. You could do that by forming a foundation or building some sort of a trust that takes care of certain things, okay? All right, but that's down the road. Most of you are not there yet. Most of you are still working on these other things. All right, Janet?
Okay, so my question is, paying off your house. For me, that is like, I always see that as I don't want that. Okay, I know you talk about there's a difference between what you call consumer debt versus when you actually are putting money to buy a property and rent it and so forth, or in whatever you're doing with the money. But like I feel like maybe with my morals or the way I see myself, the world, how my husband and I see, we would rather pay off the house first before doing like, because we're already investing, but we would like to like maybe rental properties. Like, how do I reconcile the idea of owning money or getting money as a loan to buy something to make money with it? Can you help me with that?
All right, I could do it, but you actually asked two things, not just one.
Yes.
Now let's deal with the first thing.
Okay.
The first thing you asked had to do with paying off your house or that kind of a deal, and then balancing that in terms of doing it first before you invest. Okay, I speak Janet. Okay, so
Thank you.
all right. Look, I said this earlier, but I'm gonna maybe reemphasize it. I have, and some of you may have this because rates were really low not too long ago. My house has a 2.625 interest rate on it. Okay?
Ours too.
Okay. And if it should not be that hard to find an investment or even just putting into a high interest savings account and getting 5% is better than just paying off and saving the 2% on your house. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? So if you could take the same money you would have put towards the house into something that makes a higher interest, you're ahead. All right? I'm just saying if you balance the things out. And of course, consumer debt almost is never that problem because consumer debt almost always has some ridiculously high interest rates on it. You want to get rid of that. Okay? So I'm now at a point where I want to get the house done. I want to. Could I use the money and put it in an investment that pays better than 2.5%? Absolutely. But I'm also getting close enough that I'm thinking, you know what, I just want to get that one done. And then redirect the money I was putting towards that. Okay? But the question is, how close are you to paying off your house? Okay, if you're only like 2 years or less or whatever away from paying it off, maybe you want to pay it off and then redirect the money. Okay? If paying it off aggressively still is going to take you 8 years or 10 years, well, then maybe you don't want to do it that way. Okay? Maybe you want to take that money and put it into something that actually makes you a better return. Okay, that's question one. Question two. A lot of you, and I don't blame you, I'm starting to get into it myself, I've always wanted to get into real estate. And real estate is a great thing to get into. And it has potential, like any other investment type of opportunity, you know, potential negatives and ways that it could blow up in your face. But, you know, it is a powerful thing and powerful tool. And the wealthy do use real estate often as part of their tools. You know, especially a guy like Rich Dad, Poor Dad Kiyosaki, you know, he owns tons and tons of rental properties. He owns other things as well, but he owns rental properties. Now, so the key to a rental property, okay, is cash flow. All right? Number one. The number one thing is cash flow. Now, it doesn't have to necessarily be flowing a lot into your pocket, but it has to at least be paying the debt. So if I have a rental property that has a mortgage on it of $1,500 a month, I need to be getting at least $1,500 a month from the person living there. Because at least that way they're paying the debt. I don't have a debt, okay, that's coming out of my pocket every month. I have a debt that I owe ultimately, but nothing is pulling out of my income and my cash flow because somebody else is paying it. Now, you'd like to, of course, charge a little more than that so that you can actually pay for other things that pop up, like any kind of maintenance and other things on the property, and things like HOAs if you have a rental house in an HOA place, you know, in a development, whatever it is. So you need to kind of budget out what is that house going to cost you, or that apartment complex, or whatever it is that you buy, what is it going to cost you on a monthly basis for everything? All the things that are your costs. You want to make sure that the people renting are covering those costs and then some. And the then some is about the fact that what if it's vacant? All right? Let's say, again, the same scenario. I've got a house that's costing me $1,500 a month. Let's say that's everything. All of it's together is $1,500 a month. And I'm charging somebody, let's say, $1,800 a month. And so I'm making $300 a month. Okay? $300 a month is only $3,600 a year. Okay? Let's say that place is vacant for 2 months. I've just lost most of my $3,300 right there. I've lost $3,000 because it's costing me $1,500 a month. It goes a third month, now I'm in the negative. I've lost money. So you have to always be aware that rentals are great if they're rented. Okay? A way to mitigate that problem is having multiple doors that you're renting. The more doors you have, the more you can handle one of them not being rented. Okay? So let's say you have a quad. There's 4 units. Each of those units is making you, say, $300 or $500 a month. All right. Well, now you're making more money, okay? And it could be that you're making a lot more than that even, because you can have maybe 2 or 3 of them pay the mortgage and everything expenses, and the other one's fully profit. Okay? I'm just saying is so that if one is empty, you still got 3 pays the bills. The more doors, the more you can handle vacancy. All right? You own 1 rental property. If it's empty, you're losing money. All right? You're losing money. Okay, the other piece of the real estate puzzle is that there's 2 other real important benefits to it. Okay? One is that it does potentially go up in value. The other is that, according to taxes, it goes down in value. It depreciates. Now, not down in value in terms of you selling it, but just it's considered to be losing value. And you can depreciate, properties on average about, 27 and a half years. So if you have a $270,000 property, you're able to depreciate $10,000 a year. All right? Basically. That depreciation goes against your income. So if that property made you $10,000 profit that year, it made you 0 as far as taxes, because the depreciation offset that. Okay? And if you have income from other sources and you own the property as a sole sort of personal business that's, is still you, like a sole proprietor, guess what? That loss, that depreciation comes off against your income. So you wonder why rich people don't pay any taxes, because they own enough things that are taxable, depreciatable type of things, so it offsets their income. So then they really don't make any money. So don't get all mad when people say, well, this rich person doesn't pay any taxes. Well, the law is set up that if you do it right, you don't pay taxes. They're not cheating, I think it was really funny. I think it was when Trump was debating Hillary, and she got in his face about, he doesn't pay any taxes. And he said, yes, that's true. And if you don't like it, change the laws. I didn't make the laws. I'm just doing according to the laws that you Democrats and other people put in place, and the Republicans too, whatever. If you play by the way the system is designed, you can do very well. Problem is, most of us have no idea how the system is designed. It's designed to benefit you if you're a business owner. Okay, businesses have all kinds of things that they can deduct that you can't, which is why you eventually would like to work for yourself, and then you can deduct all kinds of things you wouldn't otherwise get to deduct, right? So that's real estate, okay? And then, of course, here's the other thing with appreciation. Okay, let's say you have a house that's, $300,000 house. And, you put 20% down, so you got about you paid $60,000 down, so you got $240,000 still in the house. You're paying whatever the mortgage is. And let's say over time, interest rates go down. Okay, let's say you got it at a 7 or 8% interest rate, like recently, and let's say all of a sudden they go back down like 4 or 5. You may now be able to borrow a larger amount of money out of the house for the same mortgage payment, which means you can, say, borrow another $20,000 out of the house or so. If you borrow that money out and put it in your pocket, it's tax-free because it's debt. Now, it hasn't hurt you any because the mortgage is still the same. Payment's still the same. The rent is still paying the same because now you can borrow more money at a lower rate. Does that make sense? Okay? That's how a lot of these rich people get rich too. They borrow things. They can borrow, or let's say the equity goes in. The house is now worth $500 instead of $300. Well, at the right rate, I can borrow more money out of that house, more cash in my pocket, as long as I have a renter that's paying it. Those are some of the advantages. Just understand, it just takes a vacancy to wipe everything out. That thing's vacant long enough, or if something breaks in big time, you need a new roof, or something breaks here and that's big. Okay, we have a few people here that know that kind of problem. Bought a couple of duplexes, and then next thing you know, some of them were lemons. And that could take all your profits for a little while. All right, so don't just think, oh, get in real estate. Oh, learn a lot first. Okay? Learn a lot first. As a matter of fact, if you've never owned a piece of property even to live in, you have no idea what you're doing. Because if you've lived in a house, you know the things that houses what comes with that, okay? The things that can go wrong with a house, okay? Houses, cars, these are all things that cost a lot to begin with, and they do nothing but eat your money. Okay, they're money sharks. That's all they do is eat money. If you do have a house and you thought, I'm going to get a swimming pool, terrible money shark, okay? Terrible money shark. For the amount of time you'll use it, terrible money shark. All right, Janet.
Yes,
Did
Rabbi.
that answer your question?
Yes, it does. I may have some follow-up after that, but I think that was really good. Rabbi, I was just thinking about, Abraham, how he was blessed. And of course, I mean, you always teach us obedience follows, blessing. And so you've talked about the 7 areas. Finances is one of them. And so Abba is gonna, would you agree that Abba, I mean, one rabbi that I listened to a long time ago, like he will pour the blessings if we have the vessels, if we're ready to do the work, if we're obeying. Obviously, we have to do our homework to prepare and research and don't just start something without knowing anything about it. But if we're obedient to his commands and if we're doing our homework and doing the best we can trust that he will bless our efforts in that.
All right, let's go to the old phrase of God helps those who help
Thank you.
themselves, okay? So if you're working on your finances and you're doing all the right things and you're making all the right efforts, yes, he would likely bless the effort. If you're working on your relationships, okay, he will likely bless the effort. Of course, some things are a little tougher to look at in terms of blessing because it's not just you, okay? So like a relationship takes 2 people. So you could do everything you can and do everything right, and the relationship still might go down the toilet. It's not because it's not just one person, right? But when it comes to things like finances, well, you're married, you have a husband, you guys are making plans together. Okay, as long as you guys are making efforts together, working together, and learning from any mistakes that you make, yeah, there may likely be some blessing there, okay? Because he wants to encourage you when doing well, right? He wants to encourage you when doing well. All right, Frank.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Shalom.
I just wanted to share some things from a been there, done that perspective. I've done it all. I've worked hourly, I've worked under salary, and I've been self-employed. And a couple things I wanted to share. When you are working either hourly or salaried, your employer is generally speaking, paying into your Social Security, your retirement, hopefully, and sharing healthcare expenses. If they're not paying all of it, they're contributing to it. When you are self-employed, guess what? You're on the hook for 100% of all of that. The Social Security, the health insurance, the retirement benefits. That's all yours. And
Actually, it's worse than that because you're responsible for both halves of the Social Security.
yes,
So
that's
it's
what.
double.
That's the 100%.
Yeah.
You got to pay it all. So you have to factor that into your budget if you're going to be self-employed. Now, that can be very, very rewarding. But you have to factor those things in, and depending on the nature of your self-employment, what you're doing, you may also have to carry liability insurance. You may have to post a performance bond. Again, other expenses that you must factor into your budget when you're going to be self-employed.
Excellent. I appreciate that. Okay, so let me say this. I didn't cover this only for one reason, now, other than there being a time restraint, but I appreciate that Frank did. Here's the point, all right? If you are going to only be self-employed as a side hustle first, you'll learn all these things while you're doing your side hustle, all right? Because you'll be responsible for all those things. If some people think, oh, I'm just going to be an independent contractor, well, then you're responsible for all that stuff. Now, that also means that your employer's not taking taxes out, but now you're responsible for that. But also, the Social Security thing is a big thing. FICA, okay? There's 2 halves to it. The part you pay, the part the employer pays. If you're self-employed, you pay both, okay? So when you look at that coming out of your paycheck, double it if you're going to work for yourself because you have to pay both. Also, You work for yourself, you may have to file quarterly your taxes, your estimated taxes anyway, okay? Because if you don't have I think 75% or whatever it is by the end of the year paid, you will pay a penalty. Maybe 90%. What is that? It's 75 or 90%. You have to pay a lot of it by the end of the year. You cannot wait till April for that, okay? Personal income, no problem. Self-employed, that's got to be paid, okay? Then you also probably, Frank didn't mention this, probably need to have an accountant look at your stuff. You may need to spend some legal fees on developing yourself into a S Corp or an LLC or a C Corp or some other entity, legal formation, okay? All these things are extra expenses. Now, there's still reasons why people still go through all this process, because potentially you could make more. I mean, there's a potential, okay? Realize something, okay? And I'm going to get to you in a minute. Realize something, okay? The more solid the floor, in other words, the minimum you can make it something, like you have a guaranteed salary or whatever it is, the more solid is the ceiling, okay? So you're limited to how high up it can go. Like you may have a job that guarantees you $40,000 a year, but that's all you're ever going to make, okay? So I want to talk about something really important, and thank you, Frank, for kind of triggering the thought. Some of you people want to get into sales, the best business there is, in my opinion, okay? It has the most potential to make the most money. However, understand this really importantly. You have to have a skill set strongly developed to do well at it. I'm not saying you can't develop it. You have to have a skill set. Now, that being said, nobody here listening to me should, now that I'm saying this, ever go get a commission-only job unless you've already sold and unless you have all of this other financial 3 to 6 months, etc. Commission-only jobs are for the best of the best. They pay the most. They have no floor. They have no ceiling. However, if you're not real good, you could be sitting around a long time with nothing, okay? Because some people are like, oh, I took this job, and boy, and it's commission only. That's very risky, okay? You don't do that thinking, if you need money now to pay bills now, you don't do that. I want you to get there's a couple other choices. Either get something that has a base plus commission. I'm going to give you a guaranteed, $400 a week plus commission. Whatever it is, some minimal amount, I'll give you like $15, $20 an hour plus commission. All right, fine. At least you have something, okay? The other part would be a draw versus commission. Does anybody know what that is? Okay? So a draw says, I'm not paying you any salary till you make at least this amount, but if you don't make that amount, at least you get the draw. Okay? So let's say I have a $3,000 a month draw. I'm expecting to make a lot more than that. Okay, so my first $3,000 in commission, I'm not getting. I'm just still getting my $3,000. Okay? So it's kind of like a base, but the base is something you get and you get commission on top of that. A draw is instead of your commission until you make more than the draw. Okay? If you don't make more than the draw for a few months, you're going to get fired. They didn't pay you to do that. That's just a little safety net when you get started. Okay? So that's the kind of thing that I just want you to know, because I was a sales guy. After being a sales guy for a long time, always wanted commission-only jobs. They made the most money. But they were the thing that if you didn't know what you were doing sales-wise, and you weren't willing to do all the things that nobody really wants to do, the grunt work, the hard work, the cold calling, the hearing a lot of no's, you were never going to make it. There's a reason why those jobs pay so well, because it sucks and nobody wants to do it. It's not easy, okay? But you need the skill sets. You have to develop those skill sets. All right, just wanted to throw that out there because we got so many people like, well, I was thinking of going into this. I'm like, yeah, it's commission only. What are you going to do to pay your bills in the meantime? And then they go and do it anyway, and it doesn't work. And then I'm like, I told you, All right? Don't do that. Elders in the back is doing a lot of this. He was in sales too. He knows. Understands what I'm talking about. All right? Commission only, sky's the limit. There's also no basement, though. Okay? There's no floor. You're just floating around in air, hoping that they go up. All right? All right, Michael.
Shalom, Rabbi.
Shalom.
This could be a dumb question, Most of my adult life, I didn't have a credit card, and now I do. And I've heard like 3 different things on how to properly use it. I totally get that it's not my money. You confirmed exactly what I've thought from the beginning. But what is the best way to use it? Because I've heard that, don't do anything with it. I've heard
No,
10%.
No. Hold on. The best way to use a credit card, okay? And by the way, don't use debit cards. Use credit cards. Well, why, Rabbi? Well, I don't know. You want anybody out there to have access directly into your bank account? There's a lot more limit to damage can be done if you lose your credit card than if you lose your debit card, okay? Now, some of you might think, well, there's only $300 in the account anyway. Who cares? All right, that may be the case. But what if that's not always the case, all right? You should have at least a Visa, MasterCard, one of those two, and I like the idea of having an Amex, okay? That's just me, all right? So I do almost everything on the Amex. A few people don't take it. I'll use the other one. But the thing is, I would use it to develop my credit and for not having to carry around a bunch of cash for everything. Just make sure you're paying it off. Don't spend, just use it like cash. You have the money. I don't use cash for anything. I use the plastic for everything. Actually, the card I have is metal, whatever. Thing is, I use that for everything. So the right way to use it is to use it like it's cash. You'll get cash back. You'll get miles that you could use for various things. You'll get all kinds of great benefits. And your credit, which I know Ramsey's a big thing about, if you're buying everything for cash, why do you need credit? Because you don't buy everything for cash and you need credit, okay? So the best way to get credit is to have something like a credit card that you're using on a regular basis and paying it off, all right? Especially if you use it for everything, it means that you're using it a lot. You're putting like a couple of $100 to $1,000 or more a month on the card and paying it off. Put your utilities on it. Put anything you can put on an auto pay, put it on the card. Just make sure it's an auto pay and you have the money in your bank account. Never, ever roll over your card. Ever. Okay? This is coming from somebody who has been bankrupt, mostly because of card debt. Okay? I know, I own the shirt, I know what it feels like. In case you're wondering, Rabbi, listen, I've had more credit card debt than you can ever imagine, all right? Just trust me, when you sit there whining about, I've got $2,000 of credit card debt, that's not even the lowest I had on one card, okay? All right? So I'm not saying that to brag, I'm just saying I've done as dumb as you can do with that. That's what I'm bragging about. I've been as stupid as you can be with credit cards. And I'm telling you, the only way to use it is to use it and pay it off. That builds the best credit. Just sitting on a card doesn't do anything for you. They want to see that you can actually use it and that you can pay it off, okay? Don't float anything so they can see you making payments. That's just stupid and putting money in their pocket, all right? I've got what is that, 600, what is the credit scores? 800, I got that, okay? Now, bear in mind, I was bankrupt and had no credit score really for a long time, right? It's 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is. So I had that. But I built it back. So the right way to use credit cards is I would use it for everything. It's the safest way to deal with things. By the way, maybe this doesn't happen to you, I often have problems with vendors that don't fulfill their orders properly or won't give me a refund or won't take a return. And guess what? I can call American Express and they take care of it for me. Can't do that when I'm just paying cash. It's not so easy, all right? So cards have benefits. I've had things stolen that were replaced because of the replacement policy of the card. 1 year, some of you might remember this because it was a long time. I had 3 laptops stolen out of my house. We were living in Appleton. Guess what? One of them was on the American Express. It was in that time frame, whatever. Buyer's insurance, I got a new one. There's benefits, okay? I travel. I've got a Delta SkyMile card. Guess what? I don't have to pay for luggage, ever. It's a great benefit, okay? I get other benefits as well. And so, yes, I like the idea of having them, just got to use it right. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so just to make sure, so use it for everything and just pay it at the end of the month. None of this waiting, pay a little bit at a time.
I pay it as soon as, I don't even do that. It's all auto-paid. Every card that I have, and I've got one or two, okay, they're auto paid. Everything's on auto pay. Even the ministry's cards are all on auto pay. Now, that means you better know what your budget is and what you got in your bank account.
Yeah.
Because you got it on auto pay. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
But don't you ever miss a payment. So I don't like the idea that I might forget to write a check. Has anybody ever done that? You had the money, but you just forgot? I've done that. Then you got to call and beg them to take the late fee off and all that kind of stuff, which they'll do sometimes. But set it up as an auto pay. All right? Use it, auto pay it. Never, ever roll it over. Do not have consumer debt. All right? Don't float that money. Okay. Michael and Ashley.
So I'm going to start with a credit cards question because I have not used credit or debt in so long that all I really use is either cash or my debit cards. Because if I go to get a credit card, I'm going to get this little rinky-dink $200, $500 cards. So how on earth could I actually get into a point where I could actually pay some real bills with a credit card, and like because I have a real card, you know, like how do I make that
very
transition?
simple. Very simple. Hold on, very simple. I did all these things that I'm going to give you. They're still doable today. All right. Number one, you can go get a secured card. So what's a secured card? It means that you put $500, $200, whatever it is, into a bank account that card has, and that is your credit limit, is the money that's your money in the account. So you're really just using your money. You do that for a little while actively, and they might say to you, we think you're very good at this. We're going to extend you an extra $200 or $500. Now you've got some of it that's your money that's secured, and now you've got some of it that's not secured, okay? And as they increase your limits, eventually you'll qualify, because everybody's going to want to give you cards, for an actual card. But you can start, and even if you just start with a little rinky-dink $200 card, use it. They'll up your limit. Use it. They don't want to deal with you with only $200 on the hook. They like to get you on the hook for thousands of dollars. Okay? So start with whatever card you can get. If you can't get one, look, there's bankrate.com. Bankrate.com. Everything that has to do with money. You want high yield savings accounts, you want mortgages, you want anything about anything that has to do with money, that they have all of the vendors are all linked there. You might start getting emails from everybody, but who knows? But the thing is, if you want to look up secured credit cards, they'll have a list of them. All right? They'll have a list of them. Okay, so I would start off with just getting the cheapest one that they'll qualify. First of all, the biggest thing is also, if possible, never get one with a fee, like a annual fee. Get a card that they're not going to charge you just to own the card, okay? Can't do that with the better American Expresses, but you get such benefits, it's kind of worth it, okay? But the regular Visa, MasterCard, get ones that don't have an annual fee. Most of them don't. Just get one without an annual fee. Don't worry about the interest rate. I don't care if it's 100%. You're not planning to pay it ever, okay? So don't just look for the best interest rate. Why does the interest rate matter to you on a card you're never going to use as far as the interest, right? American Express has the worst rates, okay? Because they expect you to pay it off, all right? So I don't care what the rate is on the card. I'm not shopping for the rate. I want a good card, gives me whatever benefits it gives me that I can have to use instead of cash. And then I'm going to use cash to pay it off every month, on time, all the time. Okay? All right, what else?
Thank you for that, Rabbi. I don't know if you're willing to go into this, but I had questions about insurance with you. Or is that like
About
later thing?
insurance? Like,
Yes.
What type of insurance?
Like using it to possibly fund investments like IUOs
No.
or S&Ts.
All right.
I
None of
asked
us.
because other people came to me about it.
Sure, and a lot of people are listening to the 5 million TikToks out there of everybody saying how the rich people get rich because they borrow out of their insurance policies. Let's not do that, okay? You want to invest. Insurance policies are insurance policies. I know a little about this. I worked for New York Life. I sold insurance, okay? It's not the way to make your money. Okay, insurance has one purpose. In case of the adverse thing that you have the insurance for, like, say you have health insurance in case you get sick. You have life insurance in case somebody dies, okay? The insurance is to cover the problem. It's not there to be used for something it's not designed to be used for, okay? Now, I did sell universal life and all these other things, and we said, oh, yeah, there's like an investment and it's going to do it. That's not the point. Don't ever do that. Invest in investments, okay? Insurance is insurance. Matter of fact, term insurance for life insurance is your best way to go, okay? Now, how much insurance do you need? Enough to cover whatever it is you're trying to cover. So if you're responsible to get your own health insurance, then you want one that you can afford the deductible, it's the right deductible, and that you can afford whatever the copays are. Okay? Or if you're dealing with life insurance, you want to make sure how much money does the one you're leaving behind need to get going and take care of themselves for however long you want to take care of them. All right? And so you need to have enough for that. If you, by the way, as part of your wealth, if you get to the point where you have enough assets and money, etc., that if you were to die, your spouse would be able to have all of that, and that would be better than an insurance policy. Why do you need an insurance policy? Okay? Your goal should be to not need life insurance. You've already got your insurance. I own a couple of paid-for houses, and I got whatever investments, whatever. That's the insurance. Because what is the insurance supposed to do? Take care of your burial expenses and everything, which, by the way, you should have at least enough money to take care of your end-of-life expenses, okay? But also, there should be enough to take care of the other person for however long you agree that they should need, okay? And so let's just kind of think of it that way, all right? So ultimately, I'd rather you be at the point where you have your own self-insurance for your life insurance. You have it all covered. You go, or the other one goes, and life is going to be just fine. Well, not fine because you're gone, but fine financially, okay? Also, if you got a bunch of debt, don't leave that debt on your children or your spouse. Have insurance. That's the life insurance can cover that. You know, you got $50,000 in debt and junk or whatever, $30,000. Make sure you got at least a policy that covers all that. Why burden everybody when you leave? You know what? Is that the last thought you want them to have? Is, oh man, why'd you leave me with all this debt? Okay, that's horrible. Don't do that. And dying is not free. Okay, it's expensive. I mean, it just costs for that stuff. By the way, we will try to do a teaching at some point on end-of-life stuff. I'm not going to do that now. But just keep in mind, this is all of you, especially if you're getting older, if you have older parents. If you're going to bury them in a cemetery somewhere, go get that now. It will be twice or triple the price if you do it after the fact. They just died, and now you got to go get a plot. They will charge you double and triple. Okay? So when my mother-in-law died, and they went to go get her a plot, it was one price, and they said, well, they wanted to get one for my father-in-law also, he was still alive. His was a third the price or half the price. Okay? Because he didn't need it. It was in advance. Okay? So you might want to go get these things worked out in advance. All right. Ashley?
Yes. And then the other question I had, and then I wanted to make a comment. Even if one becomes blessed or everything is taken care of and stuff like that, is it okay to still think that they need to continue working so they can pay food for the next month kind of a mentality? Like they're good to go, they have everything set, but still have the mentality of, oh my gosh, if I don't go get this next fish or whatever, I'm not going to have it. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly.
I think I understood you. I don't think you explained yourself very well. Look, the bottom line is do not yield to this idea of the fear of lack, okay? The fear of scarcity. If there's scarcity, fix it. If it's fixed, don't be afraid of it anymore. Okay? Now, you can always get to the point where you have enough, but you still want to keep going, even though, because enough is great, but I could still, if I have extra more than I have that I need, I could use that in other wonderful, benevolent ways. And I could use it in all kinds of wonderful things. Money, you can do so many wonderful things with if you had it, okay? It's not the root of all evil, okay? It's the love of money that can be the root of all kinds of evil. It doesn't say all evil, it's all kinds of evil. But you can do amazing things with money, all right? When somebody needs something, usually it's going to take some money to fix it. So money does help a lot. But the thing is, do not get trapped into this fear that could happen when you were raised maybe with nothing or you've had things taken away from you, this fear of lack or scarcity, okay? Be in reality. If you really have abundance, then live in that abundance and don't have the fear of lack, all right? Now, of course, if you're going to get real lackadaisical and not do the things that got you the abundance and it's all going to disappear on you, well, that you should be afraid of. Don't forget how you got where you are and then start doing dumb things to take it all away. All right? Anything else?
Yes, and just one last thing, sir. I just wanted to, if I may, give people a little bit of motivation. There is nothing like a blessing of seeing your biological grandmother be able to pass away in her own home. She was almost 96 years old. For the last year, if I'm doing the math correctly, year and a half of her life, she had 24-hour in-home private care. That's expensive. That was probably $150,000 cash.
Right.
But just to be able to see her, to be in her own home, being at the comforter after her own things and her own ways of life, and then Marsha be able to have that same possibility, but she waited too long because she chose hospice at the last second.
Right, right.
But just to be able to see those two things and go, that was a way to go. You know, family was able to be around. We were able to have whatever we want and stuff like that. And I just wanted to say, if there isn't a motivator, I don't know what else is.
That's a good motivator. Look, end of life stuff, I don't mean just dying. I mean like as you decline, it could get real expensive, you know? And you could end up having everything gone. I mean, you could lose everything on that. I mean, the financial expenses is tremendously hard, you know? One of the things that I would do, okay, and I won't get myself in any trouble here, but, you know, if you have parents that are getting on in age but are healthy, I would get the things like their house out of their name, get them a life estate where they get to live there, but it's in your name, and they don't have anything then to take, all right? My mother has a life estate in her house. She's healthy. You got to be healthy, though, because they're going to back test 5 years to see if you're doing this to try to get away with something, right? So if they're healthy, they can give you their house. They can sell it to you, whatever they want. You're the owner of the house. You give them what's called a life estate, which is a legal right that you can't throw them out. They get to live there until they die if they want. And yet, if my mom ever was to go into a home, she doesn't have a home to take. Okay? It's not hers. They can't take it. Just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, something you might want to do. I would highly recommend it. I did that myself when I heard about it. Thought it was a great idea. All right. Brianna. Hi, darling.
Hi. Okay, so I was wondering if, I don't know if you already answered this before, but the levels are individual, not like even if you're married, you can't like collectively be a level, or is it?
No, you could do both. Okay? Because if you're married, okay, when we're leveling up, for example, the finances, you guys can have your own individual goals and things that you want to do, but ultimately, you're a team. And so you should be setting some of them individually, but they're in the context of the bigger picture that you're both agreeing to. Okay?
That makes sense. So I have a couple of questions.
Okay, wait. So let me just say this because it kind of connects to what you just said. The individual versus the group, the collective, as a husband and wife. My encouragement is that you have at least 3 bank accounts. One that all the money goes into first. Okay, you guys do it backwards. All right, but one, you heard that, Ben. You guys do it backwards. All right, one that all the money goes into first. Then you take some out and put it in your individual ones as agreed. Okay? Don't put them in your individual ones and you each decide how much goes in the middle. Okay? Everything goes in the middle and you say, okay, each of us is going to take, let's say together you put in your paychecks and let's say that's like $2,000. And you say, okay, and then each of us gets 10% of that to put in our own accounts to do whatever we want with. The rest of it goes to pay the bills. The main account pays the bills, but each of you should have your own money to do whatever you want with. And that money that's in your private account, you should not have to get permission to use. Everybody should have a certain amount of autonomy over some money, okay? So main account gets the paychecks, okay? Now, if you're the guy, okay, and you're making enough to take care of everything, you might just say to your wife, your paycheck just goes into yours, do what you want with it, okay? That's fine too. But I'm just saying is, I like the idea of each one having their own autonomy over their own funds to some degree. As long as the core is agreed to, that's the collective. You two agree to what the money gets dealt with in the main, all right? But once it gets moved to somebody's account, they can do what they want with it. Go ahead.
Yeah, also like pretty much all of my personal money goes into like savings pretty much, and all of his money goes towards the bills. So we don't really
What's just
do
fine.
it that way.
If you do something that agrees, okay, because I know you were kind of taking money from each other's and putting it in to pay bills with whatever you were doing. But now, as long as you have something that works for you, okay? But I really think that it helps to have some money that you could just do something that the other person may or may not agree with or whatever, but it's yours. It's just your money, right? If you want to go out and go get some ice cream somewhere, just go do some activity somewhere that costs some extra money that wouldn't normally be in the budget, but it's yours. The budget's for the main account, right? The money that's in your own personal accounts is just for whatever, It's funny, if you're not used to this, my wife still comes up to me and asks me about spending stuff. I said, it's in your account. Just go do it, okay? It's yours. All right, go ahead.
So like with the dual income or each one of us having 2 income streams,
Right.
but both of our secondary income streams are not consistent. So like when I'm trying to put it into a budget or like it's hard to kind of average out the amount coming in from like the second income stream. So like should I almost just basically just plan it off our main incomes rather than the secondary since they're very inconsistent?
All right, so that's one way of maybe handling it, right? Okay. In other words, let's say you have, like in this case, they work at a restaurant occasionally, okay, and they get
Once a week.
Once a week. But see, but if you work at the restaurant once a week, you could at least budget in on average a minimal expectancy of what you make in a day. Let's say that's $200 or whatever it is, okay, or $500, whatever that minimum is. Okay, well I know Ben does well, okay, when he works there. All right, but just average it out. Okay, so if it averages out to at least $500. That's where you're pretty confident, then budget in $500 a week, okay? But let's say you do something less consistently, any of you, and it's really kind of just something that pops up and you can make a few extra bucks. Just plan to use that for one of the peripheral things like paying off debt or some other thing. It's not really in your budget, but don't use it for spending, consuming. It's just extra money that's for moving ahead, right? Making progress. So that's the 2 ways you could go. But in your case, if you're talking about like when he works at the restaurant, well, I mean, you have an idea of at least the minimum he's going to make. And so just budget that in. Anything above that, use it for the extra stuff.
And then like with school, I feel like I like to look into the future a lot and make sure that I'm planning. But the problem is like a lot of the times, like I get scholarships, right? But not every time is it like guaranteed that I'll get a scholarship. So do you think I should have like set aside extra money just in case like I don't get a scholarship
Absolutely.
or something falls through, and then that be integrated into the budget? Or
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so wisdom dictates that you should be preparing for any contingency you think is possible. Not like every remotest crazy thing, but if like, for example, you've been getting a scholarship to pay for your school, well, what if the scholarship wasn't given to you the next semester or whatever it is? Well, then you should have the money for it because you're not going to stop going to school just because you didn't get the scholarship, okay? So, yes, I would put that in your budget, but then also decide what to do with that money if you get the scholarship, because now you can use it for something else or just roll it over to the next semester, right? Just budget that amount and make sure you have it on the side, okay?
And then I guess kind of going more into future planning. So like after we finish school, because like right now Ben has some like student loans and like they don't accumulate interest while you're in school. But like, do you think like the budget for that starts post school, or like should we start setting aside money now for it? But it's not the stuff that's bleeding. We don't have any bleeding debt right now because it doesn't accumulate any interest while he's in school. So.
All right. So again, planning for something that you know is coming. So if you know that when he finishes school, interest is going to start accumulating. Well, you don't want to pay interest. So let's start planning to try to maybe get the thing paid off, if possible, or at least a chunk of it before you get there. Okay?
But then, like, when planning for, like, 6 months expenses or other things like that, it might, like, set us back from that. Is that okay to be temporarily set back from doing, like, things like that, just so that you can pay off some things like that?
No, look, you always budget what you have to spend first, and then you budget your extra things like 3 to 6 months expenses. All right? Always deal with things like your contingencies and your insurance. It's basically insurance, is putting aside money for something that might come up, right? So it's like an insurance thing. Then you can do the next step after that, right? That's why we start with the $1,000 emergency fund, so that if that happens, you're ready, okay? By the way, please don't do this. I'm going to encourage you. Some of you are going to do it anyway. You have your money, finally, your $1,000 emergency fund, and guess what? Something breaks. Don't cry. But I finally got it. The emergency fund is not meant to hold on to forever. It's meant for emergencies. Be happy you got it. Smile and say, this is great. It happened and I had the money. Now I got to rebuild it. Yes, you do. But that's the point of the emergency fund. Okay? Because I watch people all the time have a fit the first time something happens to mess with their fund. But that was what it was for. At least it didn't throw you into a whole tailspin because you didn't have any money. You had the money. Okay? And this is really, don't get upset when you have to use it. You're going to have to use it at points. That's the point of it, okay? That's why we make you get it first. All right, go ahead.
I just wanted to share what we do with our budget. I thought it might be helpful for somebody. When you recommended using the credit card so you can kind of track where your expenses go, we shifted to doing that. So I have the budget on a spreadsheet, and when we use the credit card, I treat it just like a check. I go into the budget and I deduct it out of my spreadsheet and put it in the line item that says credit card.
Perfect.
So all while we're buying groceries, gas, or healthcare, whatever it is, it ends up in the credit card line item. And when I see it get to whatever dollar amount, I just go ahead online and make a payment. And then I never even wait a whole month. I may pay it 2 or 3 times in a month just because I don't like to see it build up.
Sure.
But
no
it
problem.
shifts it from the line item so that I know where I'm at in my envelopes, so to speak, to the credit card for payment.
That's great. I think that any kind of techniques that work for you, that's a good one, okay? The main thing is that, A, you need to have awareness of what's happening, what you're spending, where, and et cetera. B, you have to have a way to track it, okay? So if you can be aware of it and track it, that's one way to do it. That's a great way to do it, okay? All right.
I have a question about when to add the third tithe in all of this. So last year, I believe it was February, we watched your tithing teachings, and so we started second tithing, whether we could afford it or not. We did it, but that's why we're here right now. And so to my understanding, we were to start third tithing after this Sukkot. But when you're talking about some of these different levels and incorporate it when you can, where's the balance between?
All right, hold on. First of all, let's go to how the third tithe works, okay? When did you first come to understand there are 3?
We were raised in Worldwide Church of God,
All right, so you already knew.
We knew it, but then it was reconfirmed when we watched your tithing teachings. We'd been
Okay,
first
so when
tithing
was
for
that?
years.
February?
I believe it was February last year.
All right, so you could take a more aggressive or a more conservative way of approaching counting your years. We are not on a single year count as a ministry, okay? I don't know where we are in the 7-year count. I know that people out there think they know. I don't know, okay? I've seen their guesses. I don't necessarily agree with them, so I don't try to figure that out. However, since everybody's coming in on their own journey, we're not on the same kind of count anyway in your life, okay? So I don't think Abba intended that, you'd walk in and find out, oh my gosh, my first year doing this is the third tithe year. That's kind of brutal, okay? So here's the kind of the aggressive way or the conservative way. You started in February knowing about this. You were raised knowing about it somewhat, but now it's being reaffirmed. So that being said, I usually look back to see what is closer, the previous Sukkot or the next Sukkot, okay? If you're really closer to the previous Sukkot, then this year would count as year 1, okay? At the end of the Sukkot begins year 2. Let's say you only found out about the third tithe in like June. Well, that's obviously much closer to this Sukkot. So then I would say, fine, at the end of this Sukkot would be year 1. So it's up to you. More aggressively, whenever you found it out, start that as year 1. More conservatively, if you want to give yourself a little bit more time, that's fine. Especially if you feel like you're financially challenged, you could start counting right after this first Sukkot as being now the beginning of year 1. Okay? I'm giving you a little extra cushion and leeway there. That's the first answer. Second answer is, what about what you can actually afford and not afford? Okay? Here's the order of process. Number one, you make offerings. You got to put something on a regular basis. Every time something comes in, give something. The goal being that that something eventually adds up to your first tithe. All right? If you got the first tithe covered, now we're going to start putting aside something towards the second tithe, in addition to what you're already first tithing. When you got your second tithe working, then we're going to put aside something that's a third tithe. Build it up that way. And by the way, never stop the offering side. Always give a little extra something when it's time for offerings. You got 3 times a year to give something in addition to your tithes, right? So goal 1 is to get to tithes with a little bit of offerings. First tithe with a little bit of offerings. Then second tithe and first tithe with a little bit of offerings. And then all 3 with some offerings, okay? Work and strive towards that. I mean, if giving all 3 is going to put you in debt and bankrupt you and everything else, that's not really helpful. I mean, I've always made the point, and kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there's no point in you giving me a third tithe when I'm only have to give it back, because you're going to need the benevolence, okay? However, I want you to be brutally honest with yourself and say, is the reason I'm not able to do some of these tithings because I just spend money on stupidity? Because I'm selfishly just wanting to give myself all kinds of stuff I don't really need, so that's why I'm not able to do this? Remember, our budget problems are likely 2 problems. 1 is you're not making enough. 2 is you're spending foolishly, or the other way around. Doesn't matter. You're spending foolishly and you're not making enough. Now, you can make enough to overcome some of the foolishness, but you could really be in a much better place if you fix both, right? Okay? So again, all of you, no matter what your situation, you can put a penny in the box, anything, right? Learn to be in that mode that I give. Strive to now get it to where it's 10% of what you make. And still give that extra penny or 2 until you can get to the point where now I could do 2 tithes, first and second, right? Build it up that way. Did that help you in that answer?
Yes, and just to clarify, so when we're working on like the 3 to 6 months emergency fund and paying off the consumer debt, tithing comes before both of those. Is that correct? I mean, even the third tithe?
All right. That's a really good question. It gets asked a lot. I got to think of how I worded this. First and foremost, you need to get to that first tithe, okay? You got to get to that first tithe. Once you get to that first tithe, I would say, yeah, you're going to have to get rid of the consumer debt and some of these other things. Because having the money for you to go and enjoy a feast is not as critical as getting your budget right and your debt right and all the other things that are wrong in your finances, okay? So, and then certainly the third tithe would be the least important, simply because if you're all jacked up, you're going to probably need it more than be able to give it. So let's kind of put it more in that order, okay? Let's start off with recognizing as your hair is on fire, you need to fix these things, right? Okay, so number 1, start making some offerings. At least do that on a regular basis. Every time you get paid, put something. Now, then the second thing would be, let's make sure that you have an emergency fund. All right? Let's make sure you have an emergency fund. Then we're going to strive towards getting to that first tithe. At the same time, we're also going to try and get out of consumer debt, all right? But you're going to have to get to that first tithe. That is a required first thing that everybody needs to do. So find the best way you can balance that. That's between you and Abba, but that's how I would recommend it. Do you agree with me? Okay. I'm looking at Elder. We both talk a lot about finances and a lot of these ideas, and so, you know, I know it's hard to know which way to go. I don't want you saying, I'm not tithing until my finances are perfect. You'll never tithe, all right? And I want you giving offerings right from the beginning. Okay? And not because we need anything. It's because, I mean, your offering is going to not make a whole lot of difference. It's going to make a difference to you, your mindset, your heart. It's going to make a difference to you, okay? Even when I was broke and I was not in this walk, I recognized that I needed to give to start the flow happening. Because I just realized that it's not like planting the $1,000 seed nonsense. It's just like I knew, why would I expect to receive when I'm not giving? I wanted to get that kind of the juices flowing in that direction. I wanted to get the movement moving, okay? So I would give to some charity, I'd give to some event, I'd give to something just to kind of, because I didn't know what else to do with my money at the time, but just to kind of be a flow through, okay? And it always worked. Every time I did something to be a flow-through, things got better in terms of what was coming in. I mean, not in a direct proportion to how much, whatever. It just made things, maybe my mindset was different, my heart was different, something. Maybe Abba was saying, look, that's the way it works. Kind of be a flow-through. I'll give you more. Flow some more, I'll give you more. Okay? All right, did that help?
So to understand, we should not be second tithing if we have any consumer debt still other than our house?
No, I didn't say that, but I'm just saying you're causing yourself all kinds of issues until you get the consumer debt paid off. Okay? So it's just a matter of how much you want to float that debt and have it be, as long as, if you can float that debt and do your second tithe and come to feast and everything, fine. I'm just saying is you got to be functioning. If you're bleeding, let's make sure we're really clear about all this. If your budget is in the red, in the negative, that's the only thing I'm talking about. If your budget works with your consumer debt and you can pay it off and everything else, then you need to be doing all your tithes you can. Unless the tithing is going to put you in the red. Is that more clear? Unless the tithing puts you at a negative for the month. And by the way, if it does, what's the first thing you think you should do? If you do your budget and tithing puts you in the red, what's the first thing you should do? Look for things to cut out of your budget. You might be spending where you don't need to be spending. Don't just decide, well, it's in the red, so I guess I can't do it. No. First, make sure that you're only spending on needs, not a whole bunch of wants. Because he wants you to have this one want, which is feasts. Come and enjoy those. It's more important than having your Starbucks, okay? Or whatever. Come and enjoy a feast. I know all of you that are here are glad you're here. And you're having the best time, All right? And speaking of all this, Sukkot ends, all right, today. This is the last day. Tomorrow's Shemini Atzeret. So we need you to be putting your offering in. That if you didn't all week long, put in some offering that's from this week in that box, because today's the last day. If you do it on Shemini Atzeret, I guess that could work. But it's supposed to be Sukkot, right? 3 times a year. This is the 3rd time a year. So today, I've announced it enough. So if you didn't get it done, I don't know what you're doing and what you're paying attention to, but you're just not listening. Okay? Anything else?
No, thank you so much, Rabbi.
You're so welcome. And by the way, Mark was nodding his head the whole time, so I was watching he's paying attention. Your husband was paying attention. So, all right, Monica.
Hello, how
Hey,
are you?
Good.
I am, first of all, I want to say thank you so much because God is good. He is good. I mean, He's beautiful. He's so beautiful. I mean, He just makes sure that everything that you do is good and it's like
amazing.
the way it's supposed to be. And then when I came here and you taught me so many things that I am learning from you, it's more beautiful because it's getting everything into the right place. Like God really cares about your financial, about your health, about your sign, about your mind, about your brain, about everything you do. And I think that's beautiful. And thank you very much for all your teachings. They have been amazing. I really like that.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, what I want to talk to you, it hasn't
Wait,
happened.
hold the thought. I wanted to say something what you said. I want everybody to understand, because some people might not have agreed with my idea or my interest in doing this level up and covering the 7 areas of life and everything else, but I want you to just really receive what she said.
Yeah, it's
God,
beautiful.
the Creator, wants you to be full and complete in all areas of your life.
Yes.
It's not just, spiritual, although there's a spiritual aspect to everything. But He wants you to be healthy in mind and body. He wants you to be financially sound and able to provide. He wants you to be in all those other, functioning properly in all your relationships, properly functioning in your community. I mean, all of these things that He wants to, and I love that she pointed out that He is so beautiful. He's so amazing because He cares about all those areas. And I don't know why other people don't, but I found that I need to be addressing and being a minister to you, and ministering to you, all of those 7 areas, because you're going to be needing to be functional and exceptional in those areas as you go into the kingdom. So I really appreciate that, Monica. Okay, now what did you want to bring up?
Thank you. Okay, when I want to talk to you, and I want to hear what your intake is, like what you think about this situation.
Okay.
I was in a very, very amazing situation, but I married somebody who wanted to take everything from me. And right now, I'm fighting to get my house back, which I'm going to get. Now, my question was, right now he locked my house and it's abandoned. So for about 4 years or 5 years, my house has been abandoned and it's in Mexico. So it's a jungle. It's a jungle. Even the pool is like a pond, well, everything is a mess. Right. Everything is a mess. So anyway, I'm going to get my house back because we are going through the court and through the system. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen because I have everything in my side. Everything is aligned. So where I got the money, where I bought the house, he cannot dispute it. But whatever, my question was that once I get my house, yes, we're asking the court that he will pay for what I lost, right? However, I know he won't. I know that he will just be bankrupt or he just run or whatever, he's not going to pay. So I was thinking, and that's what I want to know, I was thinking, okay, the house is already paid for. I mean, it's a mess. It's a mess. So I was thinking of going to the bank and borrowing money so I can fix the house and make it suitable for renting. Do you think that's wise, or it's like, no?
No, that may be appropriate. Look, it's got to probably be very specific to your situation and whether or not, who's going to watch the house and manage it. Because right now you're not in Mexico, right?
No,
so,
I'm not.
Vietnam's a little far from Mexico. So, I mean,
believe it.
I
Just
just want to hear the full plan, and it could be a very good idea. Okay, it just depends on how much is it going to take to fix it up, and how fast would you recuperate. That. Okay.
Yeah, and then I was worried about it because, okay, I borrow against the house to fix it, but I'm not going to be able to rent the house right away. It's going to take about 6 months to get the house going and rentable. So I don't think that's wise. How am I going to pay?
Okay, but again, so part of this is going to have to do with, like you just said, do you have enough money that you can borrow? Because part of what you borrow will also be what you need to make sure that you cover the months until you can rent it.
That's
okay?
I don't have that.
Okay, right. So what you're talking about is a very important thing called ROI, okay? It's return on investment. Anything you do, this has to make sense or you don't do it. So ROI is not just how much return, but also how quickly, okay? So let's say it costs, I'm just going to pick a number. Let's say it costs $50,000 to fix the house, okay?
It's going to be more than that, but okay.
Give me a number, I don't care.
100.
Okay. All right, let's say it's cost $100,000 to fix the house.
Yeah.
All right. How many months do you think it'll take before you can rent it?
I think like 6 to a year. 6 months.
Okay, let's say a year.
A year.
Okay, we're going to be conservative here. So 1 year vacant. Okay. What you want to know is how much money do you need to pay for this loan for a year? So let's say that loan's payment is going to be,
okay,
say a few $1,000s a month. All right? Whatever it is for a $100,000 loan. Okay? So maybe not even that much, because like a $300,000 house is only like a mortgage. Well, that's a 30-year loan. But I'm saying, so you borrow this out of the house. So let's say it may cost you, say, $15,000 to $20,000
a month.
No, not a month.
Oh.
Why is it going to cost you that? Just had is there any other expenses except the loan?
No.
No. Maybe a little bit of electricity or something to keep it from, the water running, whatever. So it may be $15,000, $20,000 or something like that for the year just to keep it running. So just make sure that's built into the loan. Just make sure you borrow enough to fix the house and pay for it for a year. Okay? Does that make sense, everybody? You follow that?
Okay.
So you borrow, 150 or 120, so you have enough to cover the year.
Okay.
You need 100, but you also need this. So when you're figuring out what you need to borrow, well, first you have the repairs and renovations, right?
Yes.
Repairs and renovations, right? We'll do it that way. Let's say that's 100, but then you also have the vacancy, which may be another 50. Then you have utilities, which may be another 10. Just add that all up and then borrow that amount.
Excellent. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay. There you
Praise
go.
God. Thank you.
Okay. And then, only then, if it makes sense, is it a good idea, right? You have to add all the numbers up and then see if it still makes sense. Because some things sound good until you add it all up and you go, well, that doesn't really work, okay? Or it might work just fine. And I like the idea that we went from, well, it might take me 6 months. Well, maybe it'll take you a year. Let's be more conservative. Don't overestimate how quickly something might be. I'd rather you overestimate or, it taking longer. I'd rather you be more conservative about things, okay? All right. And what's your name again?
Jim.
Jim, okay.
All right, 2 quick questions. First one is being salary versus self-employed, where you have your own business and pay yourself out of the business.
Right.
What would be the equivalent salary? Let's say if you make $100K a year on salary, what would be your equivalent pay to yourself when you're self-employed to cover the increase in the other half of Social Security, self-employment tax, all those other things that make being self-employed more expensive? What would that equivalent salary be?
All right. I like the question, but I don't think you're asking it right, okay? All right, so there's 2 factors here, all right? So let's say this is the salary side and this is the 1099 side, right? Self-employed, okay? So let's say here, you were making 100K, 100,000, and you were getting maybe another 20 in benefits. So you got to figure out what that is. Okay, this is your salary part, this is your benefits. How much benefits are you getting? Because you're going to have to cover the benefits yourself now. I mean, are you getting health insurance? Are you getting life insurance? Are you getting, any other kind of thing that's a benefit, okay? So you have to replace the benefits, if there are any. Maybe you have a job now that doesn't have any benefits. Good, then you don't have this piece, okay? Now, that's part of it. But on this side, you're just going to get taxed on this piece here, all right? And you're going to get whatever the tax bracket is and blah, 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 blah. You really don't have any deductions. You got no expenses. You got nothing that you can really use that businesses get to do, okay? So you also have to ask the question is, okay, I'm going to have to now pay FICA, and I'm going to have to pay for benefits. But wait a minute, I also get to have all kinds of expenses, okay? And those expenses reduce your taxable income. So it may be that 100K here and 100K here, you make more money here, even though you're getting paid the same. Even though you have more money coming out of your pocket for some of these things, you may be saving much more money on all the things you get to deduct and claim as expenses that actually offsets that. So it's not a simple thing, okay? It's not like saying, well, to go from here to here, I have to make at least 20% more. Maybe. It depends on the type of business you have. Does it have lots of reasonably justifiable expenses that you can deduct, deductions that you can have? You got to talk to an accounting person, okay? Say, this thing that I do, if I did it as this versus this, based on all the added costs for being over there, but also all the benefits I would have, if I made the same amount of money, would I be ahead? And if he says no, then how much more money do I need to make so I could be ahead? Does it make any sense to everybody? So it's not a simple, simple thing, okay? If I am self-employed, I get to deduct the mileage when I'm driving around. Nobody gets to deduct their commuting when they're in a salaried position. Oh, it's after 1. I'm sorry, we keep going too long. You got to go, if you got children in the program, go get your children. Katan A, B, and Torah Tots, parents. I was not looking at the clock. I'm sorry. We're gonna try to finish this up pretty quickly here. But does that make sense? You understand?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, what you also may want to do is talk to somebody like Elder. All right, Elder does a 1099. He knows the benefit to that and why he does it. All right, so you can talk to somebody who has some experience of making a choice of going from salary to contractor. All right, and there are definitely advantages. Okay, and when he decided to switch, I didn't raise his salary. He figured that it actually makes him better money, made better sense for him to switch that status. All right? Does it make any sense to everybody, okay? So it's not a simple thing. You have to actually run your numbers. Each scenario has its own numbers. You got to run your numbers, okay? All right. Let's say, for example, you're a plumber. Okay. If you are working for yourself, you got equipment expenses and all kinds of tools and this and all kinds of things that you could deduct that you can't deduct if you're working for somebody else using their stuff. You understand what I'm saying? Okay? All matters on what kind of business you have and what kind of deductions you can have. All right? Anything else?
Yep. One more. The age per hour, when you get married, is that kind of guideline kind of if both partners are making their age per hour?
No.
If you have a total?
I'm not asking you to combine them. If you have a wife that makes a bunch of money and you're the husband and then you make a bunch of money, that means that you can just get to your wealth faster. You can figure out all the other things. But you, as an individual, to take care of you, this is mostly, I'm gearing especially to the men. You should want to be able to take care of your family. You need your age or your age plus 5 or something per hour to take care of a family, okay? If you make your age per hour and so does your wife, hey, then you guys are going to be in a much better place to do some of the other bigger things that are in level 3 and level 4 of doing your finances, okay? All right?
Awesome. Thank you so much.
So men, please don't say, well, I make 20 an hour, my wife makes 20 an hour, that's 40 an hour. No. You're 40 years old, you need to be making 40 an hour. Thank you, Jim, for asking that, because I'm glad I got to yell that out. Okay? If I make more than my age per hour and my wife makes money, I'm going to tell her, it's all yours. If I don't need it for anything with the bigger picture of what we're doing, that's yours. Put your whole salary in your account and do whatever you want with it. That's what every man's goal should be, to not need a penny out of her. Let her money be for vacations, let it be for trips, let it be for whatever fun things you want to do. Let it be for legacy or philanthropy or whatever, right? Let it be for something. But you got everything else covered. All right? That should be the goal. Okay? That's what I promised my wife when we got married. I didn't get there for a long time, but I got there. Okay? Eddie.
Hi. I just want to make sure I don't share too much to embarrass my wife, but I tend to let she does.
If you know that limit, please teach us. Because we don't know.
I don't. I go over that line.
Not with your wife, but with any wife.
I go over that line on a daily basis.
So do all of us. So
and she will attest to that.
We don't have the map to that landmine field.
Post stroke numbers. So she does our budget, but being the man, I make sure that we're both, that I review it and go over and know where our money is going to.
Yes.
For us, part of it, trying to get our finances in order was hard because with me being on disability and I'm on a very fixed budget, that doesn't allow for a whole lot of going out and doing side jobs. So we're working on doing it just out of what we make. But we have the one account that all the money most of the money, the main money goes into. That's all set up on automatic payment for paying the bills. Then we have the other account for our monthly expenses. But putting a plug in for elder, I've heard so many people, we've talked to several people that, that I can't afford that, but it's like tithing, that when you do it, when you do what you're supposed to, it comes back. The $30, even the basic money matters. He's getting ready to start again. The money matters. Please, if you are struggling with your budget, everything that you're saying up there, he reinforces in the money matters. But even the budget program allows us to know where our money is going. That has made such a difference for us, just knowing where it's going each month. The budget program in there, I cannot speak highly enough about it. Please, if you're struggling with your budget, or even if you're trying to set it up the first time, talk to elder. Go, attend one of the Money Matters on Monday evening. They're recorded. Those of you that are out of the, that say, well, I'm not in a time zone. I'm working during, on the East Coast when he does the meetings. He records them. Please.
All right. So just so we're clear, Elder has his own separate thing that he does for finances. Not part of MTOI. It's not a program out there, so you'll need to talk to him about that. So we're not promoting that today.
Okay.
Although I'd love him to have more people. It's a finance coaching type of thing that he does, and he's got sort of a finance group therapy he does on Mondays and Thursdays and that kind of thing. So, but that's fine. And I do encourage people that are interested to maybe contact him, but that's not what today is about.
Okay. As far as leveling up, I don't know which category it goes into. For me, my goal is I'm working on being able to recognize the names of the children that I work with. In Torah Tots, in Katan A and B, those kids that so I'm not sure which category that goes in, but trying to level that up.
It's kind of a relational community sort of aspect of it. So for those who missed the point, Eddie had a stroke a while back, and so he's kind of figuring out how to maximize his ability to get certain things done, and so this is the things that he's working on.
Yes, and so we thank you for giving this level up classes during this feast. It gives us that ability to look at the different areas. So we thank you for doing that.
Awesome. All right, thank you, Eddie. And I hope everybody's been getting something out of this. Was the level up classes good? All right. Now, it is already after 1. Anybody needs to run and go get lunch or whatever, you're welcome to. We don't have anything scheduled after this except for the rehearsal time for the children. So if you have to go, I understand, but I'm going to finish off a couple more questions just because it's the last class and we can do this. Okay.
Thank
Maria.
you. I just wanted to share some encouragement because to encourage people to come seek counsel when it comes to finances, because I found myself in a place, I ended up, because I was too prideful and stressed out by my credit card debt, that I went with a debt consolidator. And then I started taking the classes offered, or not offered, but through Elder Billy, and it's helped me quite a bit. And I was able to do first tithe, second tithe, that's why I'm here.
Awesome.
And I've also learned to use third tithe to do paying off my debt. And I have my emergency fund, all because of the guidance that this ministry provides. And if I hadn't been so stubborn and I hadn't been so prideful, I could have started sooner. Because I started that debt consolidation program in February, and praise Abba, they're starting to pay. I have 8 credit cards in that plan, and 3 of them are getting paid off by December. And then, slowly it's going to get done.
Good.
But I just want to encourage people to not be embarrassed or not, think that maybe they're too far gone, but that they can get the guidance and the support that they need. So I just want to thank you for that, for being available to do that and offer that to us.
Amen.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And again, just to make sure we're clear, when she said using third tithe to pay off debt, we're talking about using it on the years that's not the 3rd and 6th year. Okay, just the way I taught it. Okay, Melissa.
Hi, Rabbi. So one, I enjoy hearing the Level Up class all over again because I see how much I've changed from, was it 2023 I took your class?
Yeah.
And you can grow if you use everything. And I'm really thankful for that. I'm thankful for you and an elder in my life. And my question was about, from lesson 5, about each of the level sections. So level 1, 2, 3, and then it keeps going. But can you break it down?
With 0.
Huh?
First, it started with level 0.
Level 0, yeah.
Right.
Sorry about that one. But can you break down like each area in each level? So like your income streams, tithing, budget, debit, or debt, and emergency fund for each level, and then because I know how you describe.
I did it in the class.
Yeah.
When you took it, so you can go back and watch the recordings. I know because I'm using the same papers.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have time to do that now.
Okay.
All right, but you have access to the 2 sessions anyway, because anybody that ever took Level Up previously had access to all of the stuff that was there. So you can go back and look at it. Just fine when I started the finances and took out the sheet and went through the different levels. I mean, I'm using the same material today.
Okay, so I'll do that.
Okay.
It was just breaking it down so I understand how each level is, and then seeing.
Or just make an appointment. We can talk about it.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Melissa. All right, John, I know we didn't get anything from live stream, and it's really late already. Is there anything that seemed pressing that needs to be covered there?
All the questions we had come in were from Olivia. One of them got answered.
Okay, Olivia, let's make it simple. Olivia, make an appointment. You live here. Let's make an appointment. I don't get to see you in person all that much, and it's always a pleasure when we do. So let's make an appointment, or we can even do it on a phone. We could do a phone call. We'll just do something where I can work on answering your questions, okay? All right, so that's going to wrap it up for Leveling Up. All right, now I will say just this final thing. Number one, absolutely everything I gave you will work, but only if you do it, okay? This is just information. Information has no power. Applied information is power, okay? Knowledge is not power. It's applying it that's powerful. So please take these things, go back and review them. I will be putting all of the other Level Up sessions on the website at some point in the next couple of weeks. And when I do, go back and watch them. Each one of these classes was done in like 3 to 4 hours. Here I stuck it in like an hour and a half. You get a lot more in depth, okay? A lot more kind of rehashing and really clarifying things. So I want to encourage everybody to do that. But I hope this is a blessing, and I'm going to watch you guys leveling up in all 7 areas of your life. All right, just a reminder, so it's lunch now for everybody. It's prep time also for the Holy Day, and if your children are in the MTOI program, they will be rehearsing here at 3 o'clock. Okay, right? I think 3 o'clock. All right, so shalom, everyone.